It is November 23rd, which means that it's been about 10 months since I started testosterone. For the majority of that time, I've been on a half dose. There's a little while where I went up to 0.35, so it's like 70% dose. Every time I take a shot now, I feel anxious and I'm like, should I take this shot? I feel like there's a lot of changes that are happening that I'm not happy about. For example, I'm just like losing a lot of hair from the top of my head, and getting a lot of facial hair that I don't want. And I'm being like pretty consistently seen as male, maybe more consistently than I want to be. But if I go off testosterone, then I lose a lot of the changes that I feel really good about. I definitely don't ever want to bleed again. I don't want to have a period, and I just like can't imagine having a period again. Also, I really don't want to lose the muscle tone that I have now, especially because it's been a lot harder for me to find time to exercise. And I'm getting surgery, top surgery in 5 months, and I know that if I'm not able to build pecs pretty easily, that will impact how well the surgery goes. The biggest challenge for me since transitioning has been figuring out how to safely navigate interactions with cisgender men. And I mean the cisgender men who like make everything inside of me scream and like who I've learned from years of experience, years of being perceived as female, are completely unsafe. And when I see them, I should be like on the other side of the room from them or not even in the fucking room. Yeah, I don't know how to interact with them because right now, many of them are like suddenly warm to me and it feels so creepy and scary. And I'm like, are you warm to me because you're trying to tell me that you respect me as a trans person, you respect my masculinity? Or more likely, are you warm to me because you think I'm also a cisgender man? And if that is the case, what are you going to do to me if you realize that I'm trans and you realize that the history of my body and who you probably now perceive me as once you know I'm trans is a person who you feel like ownership over and entitlement to, and that my masculinity is actually a threat to you? Like, it's actually so much scarier now. I think that when I was being perceived as female consistently, I could just walk away. I could just not make eye contact. And now the ways in which I'm approached are so benign on the surface that I feel like if I were to walk away, that would make me more of a target. There's this one like big, broad dude in my program who I really, really feel uncomfortable around. I remember learning that he worked in the gym and asking him about, like, I was like, oh, I hear there's like a single stall bathroom somewhere for students with disabilities, which it is for students with disabilities, and it's also for trans students. And it just felt easier to say the thing that I'm not. And he looked at me and he was like, oh, you mean the transgender bathroom? Really loudly. And every time I'm around him, he like holds the door for me and says things like ladies first. And I'm like, I'm not a lady. I try to like interrupt it and he just does the same thing. I hate him. One really challenging moment from last week was that I went on a field trip with my class to this gym. It's in a seminar class where they're trying to show us like what the fitness industry looks like. And so it's a good idea. I appreciate that they're like taking us to different spaces. And anyway, it was this really fancy gym, and kind of halfway through the tour, there's a man who asked for all the men to go with him, and a woman who asked for all the women to go with her. And I walked up to the guy who seemed pretty sweet, and I was like, hey, seems like we're about to go through the locker room. What are we gonna do after that? Could I meet you there? And he was like, well, no, there's no other way to get there. And I just felt like really on edge. And I was like, well, fuck, what do I do? I literally don't know how I'm being perceived by almost anyone in this room. I don't know if anyone in my class knows that I'm trans. I just felt really frozen and I didn't know which locker room to go through. I thought like either way could cause problems. And so I just went with the men. I've been using the men's bathroom for longer than I've even been on testosterone. But this felt really different to go through with like a big group of like broy dudes and like my broy teacher and all these men in the locker room who were like naked and their couches and a TV and people were just kind of like making themselves at home and I was like, what the fuck? Where am I? I put my hood up and I tried not to make eye contact with anyone and I just tried to get through it. And it just sucked. What a fucking intimidating experience. I did notice that no one really registered any surprise at the locker room that I chose. And probably most people figure that I'm like trans guy or like a cis dude. I'm sure no one knows what like non-binary is, but yeah, I guess it's good that no one registered surprise. But if people do think that I'm a trans guy, like, yeah, how fucking unsafe to be in that room.